Shout out Chicken Nuggy. Had a good day today. I went to go do a shoot. Shout out Astute Threads. If you want any suits, go check out Astute Threads. He's the guy. So we went to go take care of that. Oh, this is not good. Never mind. Time to read. Time to finish off the night. Time to finish off the weekend on a good note. So let's get to it. Clarifying expectations. Imagine the difficulty you might encounter if you and your boss had different assumptions regarding whose role it was to create your job description. When am I going to get my job description, you might ask. I've been waiting for you to bring one to me so that we could discuss it, your boss might reply. I thought defining my job was your role. That's not my role at all. Don't you remember right from the first? I said that how you do in the job largely depends on you. I thought you meant that the quality of my job depended on me, but I don't even know what my job really is. Unclear expectations, the area of goals, also undermine communication and trust. I did exactly what you asked me to do, and here's the report. I don't want a report. The goal was to solve the problem, not to analyze it and report on it. I thought the goal was to get a handle on the problem so we could delegate it to someone else. How many times have we had these kinds of conversations? You said, no, you're wrong. I said, you did not. You never said I was supposed to. Oh, yes, I did. I clearly said. You never even mentioned, but that was our agreement. The cause of almost all relationship difficulties is rooted in conflicting or ambiguous expectations around roles and goals. Whether we are dealing with the question of who does what at work, how you communicate with your daughter when you tell her to clean her room, or who feeds the fish and takes out the garbage, we can be certain that the unclear expectations will lead to misunderstanding, disappointment, and withdrawals of trust. Many expectations are implicit. They haven't been explicitly stated or announced, but people nevertheless bring them to a particular situation. In marriage, for example, a man and a woman have implicit expectations of each other in their marriage roles, although these expectations have not been discussed or sometimes even recognized by the person who has them. Fulfilling them makes great deposits in the relationship, and violating them makes withdrawals. That's why it's so important whenever you come to a new situation to get all the expectations out on the table. People will begin to judge each other through those expectations, and if they feel like their basic expectations have been violated, the reserve of trust is diminished. We create many negative situations by simply assuming that our expectations are self-evident and that they are clearly understood and shared by other people. The deposit is to make the expectations clear and explicit in the beginning. This takes a real investment of time and effort up front, but it saves great amounts of time and effort down the road. When expectations are not clear and shared, people begin to become emotionally involved, and simply misunderstandings become compounded, turning into personality clashes and communication breakdowns. Clarifying expectations sometimes takes a great deal of courage. It seems easier to act as though differences don't exist and to hope things will work out than it is to face the differences and work together to arrive at a mutually agreeable set of expectations. Showing personal integrity. Personal integrity generates trust and is the basis of many different kinds of deposits. Lack of integrity can undermine almost any other effort to create high trust accounts. People can seek to understand, remember the little things, keep their promises, clarify and fulfill expectations, and still fail to build reserves of trust if they are unwittingly duplicities. Integrity includes but goes beyond honesty. Honesty is telling the truth, in other words, conforming our words to reality. Integrity is conforming reality to our words. In other words, keeping promises and fulfilling expectations. This requires an integrated character and oneness, primarily with self but also with life. One of the most important ways to manifest integrity is to be loyal to those who are not present. In doing so, we build the trust of those who are present. When you defend those who are absent, you retain the trust of those present. Suppose you and I were talking alone, and we were criticizing our supervisor in a way that we would not dare to do if he were present. Now, what will happen when you and I have a falling out? I'm going to be discussing your weaknesses with someone else. That's what you and I did before behind our supervisor's back. You know my nature. I'll sweet talk you to your face and bad mouth you behind your back. You've seen me do it. That's the essence of duplicity. Does that build a reserve of trust in my account with you? On the other hand, suppose you were to start criticizing our supervisor, and I basically told you I agree with the content of some of the criticism and suggest that the two of us go directly to him and make an effective presentation on how things might be improved. Then what would you know I would do if someone my bad were to criticize you to me behind your back? For another example, suppose in my effort to build a relationship with you, I told you something else had shared with me in confidence. I really shouldn't tell you this. I might say, but since you're my friend, would my betraying another person build my trust account with you? Or would you wonder if the things you had told me in confidence were being shared with others? Such duplicity might appear to be making a deposit with the person you're with, but it is actually a withdrawal because you communicate your own lack of integrity. You may get the golden egg of temporary pleasure from putting someone down or sharing a privileged information, but you're strangling the goose, weakening the relationship that provides enduring pressure and association. Integrity in an interdependent reality is simply this: you treat everyone by the same set of principles as you do, people will come to trust you. They may not at first appreciate the honest, confrontational experiences such integrity might generate. Confrontational takes considerable courage, and many people would prefer to take the course of least resistance, belittling and criticizing, betraying confidences, or participating in gossip about others behind their backs. But in the long run, people will trust and respect you if you are honest and open and kind with them. You care enough to trust and to be trusted. It is said, is greater than to be loved. In the long run, I am conceived to be trusted will be also to be loved. When my son Joshua was quite young, he would frequently ask me a soul-searching question. Whenever I overreacted to someone else or was the least bit impatient or unkind, he was so vulnerable and so honest, and our relationship was so good that he would simply look me in the eye and say, "Dad, do you love me?" If he thought I was breaking a basic principle of life towards someone else, he wondered if I wouldn't break it with him. As a teacher as well as a parent, I have found that the key to 99 is the one, particularly the one that is testing the patience and the good humor of the many. It is the love and discipline of the one student, the one child that communicates love for the others. It is how you treat the one that reveals how you regard the 99, because everyone is ultimately a one. Integrity also means avoiding my communication that is deceptive, full of glued, or beneath the dignity of people. A lie is any communication with intent to deceive. According to one definition of the word, whether we communicate with words or behavior, if we have integrity, our intent cannot be deceived. Deceive. Apologizing sincerely when you make a withdrawal. When we make withdrawals from the emotional bank account, we need to apologize, and we need to do it sincerely. Great deposits come in sincere words. I was wrong. That was unkind of me. I showed you no respect. I gave you no dignity, and I'm deeply sorry. I embarrass you in front of your friends, and I have no call to do that. Even though I wanted to make a point, I never should have done it. I apologize. It takes a great deal of character strength to apologize quickly out of one's heart rather than out of pity. A person must possess himself and have a deep sense of security and fundamental principles and values in order to genuinely apologize. People with little internal security can't do it. It makes them too vulnerable. They feel it makes them appear soft and weak, and they fear that others will take advantage of their weaknesses. Their security is based on the opinions of other people, and they worry about what others might think. In addition, they usually feel justified in what they did. They rationalize their own wrong in the name of the other person's wrong, and if they apologize at all, it's superficial. If you're going to bow, bow low, says Eastern wisdom. Pay the uttermost farthing, says the Christian ethic. To be a deposit, an apology must be sincere. It must be perceived as sincere. Leo Ruskin taught, it is the weak who are cruel. Gentleness can only be expected from the strong. I was in my office at home one afternoon writing of all things on the subject of patience. I could hear the boys running up and down the hall, making loud, bigger noises, and I could feel my own patience beginning to wane. Suddenly, my son David started pounding on the bathroom door, yelling at the top of his lungs, "Let me in, let me in." I rushed out of the office and spoke to him with great intensity. "David, do you have any idea how disturbing that is to me? Do you know how hard it is to try to concentrate and write creatively? Now, you go to your room and stay in there until you can behave yourself." So he went, dejected, and shut the door. As I turned around, I became aware of another problem. The boys had been playing tackle football in the 4-foot wide hallway, and one of them had been elbowed in the mouth. He was laying there in the hall, bleeding from the mouth. David, I discovered I had gone to the bathroom to get a wet towel for him, but his sister, Miriam, who was taking a shower, wouldn't open the door. When I realized that I had completely misinterpreted the situation and had overreacted, I immediately went in to apologize to David. As I opened the door, the first thing he said to me was, "I won't forgive you." "Well, why not, honey?" I replied. "Honestly, I didn't realize you were trying to help your brother. Why won't you forgive me?" "Because you did the same thing last week," he replied. In other words, he was saying, "Dad, you're overdrawn, and you're not going to talk your way out of a problem you behave yourself into." Sincere apologies make deposits, repeated apologies interrupted as insincere make withdrawals, and the quality of the relationship reflects it. It is one thing to make a mistake and quite another thing not to admit it. People will forgive mistakes because mistakes are usually of the mind, mistakes of judgment, but people will not easily forgive the mistakes of the heart, the ill intention, the bad motives, the prideful justifying cover-up of the first mistake. There's two things I took away from this. One being a reflection, but the other being an experience or something that I was in a situation where I had made a mistake, or I made a lack of judgment, and I started to say some things that made the other individual not happy. Now, we ended up getting in the heat of the moment. I tried to stay calm as much as possible, but in the end, I later realized that, we had our difficulties, but I need to go out there and apologize whether I'm right or wrong. Whether in the moment I was trying to prove my point, but in the end, it's about our relationship, not about the situation that we had or the differences that we had for a short period of time. So I went out there and I said I apologize, and I owned up to my mistakes and whatnot. And I felt like that's kind of what I was grasping for from this last little bit. And not from a even, more more basis in the situation that, he had with his sons, is that he overreacted and not knowing what he was really trying to do, and that was help his brother. Same thing goes for me. I had made a lack of judgment, not knowing how the people would react, let alone this was fairly my first time, hanging out with them on a more personal basis, or get to know them on a personal level, and knowing their triggers or knowing their push points is very important before you start to make certain judgments. The other one is the idea that 99% and 1 is the one. So 99 is the one. So, and then he later talks about how eventually every single one in the 99 is 1, or something along those lines. And I thought that was very important, in the aspect as treat every single individual that the way you would treat others. Treat them with some level of integrity. Treat them with respect. Even if you think that they don't align with you on certain principles or certain values, but still treat them the way that you would treat your own best friend, to some degree. And I think that's very important. So good chapter, good reading. Time to end the night, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.